Hey you guys, what's up? It's Rocket House 54 here, and welcome to my list for the best films of 2019. 2019 was actually better of a year for film than I gave it credit for in the beginning. There were actually a lot of pretty good films this year. I don't think it was like an exemplary year for film, but it's definitely better than some of the years we've recently had. And this is going to be a top 15 best. I was going to do a top 10, but there were just some that I really, really, really wanted to talk about. So yeah, I'm just gonna get right started, and I'm gonna start off with some honorable mentions, which are Little Women, Jumanji: The Next Level, Ma, Shazam, Fire, Child's Play, and forgot it was over here. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Believe me, I really wanted to talk about this one, but I can't make a top 16 list because that would be very weird. All right, so now we're going to start off with my number 15 pick, which is Fighting with My Family. Now, I was never into WWE wrestling or any of that when I was younger. Like it was a big thing when I was younger, but I wasn't into it. Um, and so I decided to watch this, and it was really, really good. I'm a kind of a sucker for biopics, whether they're music biopics or like just somebody or about anybody else. Like if it's a biopic, I'm generally drawn to it, and I find myself really, really liking those. And this one was no exception. Florence Pugh's had a fantastic year this year. Like, she had this and then Midsommar and then Little Women. Like that's a hell of a year for sure. And she was great in this movie. She did not even look like herself. Speaking of people who didn't look like themselves, it took me, I kid you not, I think it took me like an hour into this movie before I realized that Nick Frost was her dad. Um, and besides being a biopic, this is one of the funniest movies of the year. I was laughing so hard during this movie. It was very, very funny. I really hope that Stephen Merchant ends up going on to direct more films because this is a really good movie. And even though I didn't have an emotional connection to wrestling, it felt like it was taken straight out of a period of my life where wrestling was huge, and it did remind me it reminded me back of the sorry, I stumbled over my words, but I'm not editing it because I don't care. um it reminded me of the times when I was younger, like when it was big, and it reminded me of when times were a lot more simple and so much fun. And so that was another thing I got out of this movie, and I really, really enjoyed it. Number 14 is Doctor Sleep. Now, I actually saw this in the IMAX theater, and you probably think, oh, it's probably not really a movie to watch in IMAX. You would be wrong. The sound was spectacular. Like, during the opening scene where you first start hearing people, like, in the forest, the first time I heard, like, a twig snap, excuse me, the first time I heard a twig snap, I swear I thought somebody behind me had, like, dropped their popcorn or something. Like, that is how close the sound was to you. And like I'm actually one of those people, one of the few people that I know of that doesn't love The Shining. I think it's a good movie, don't get me wrong, but and I know I sound like somebody who doesn't know what film is by saying this, but I read the book, and the book is so much better, and the movie missed so much of what made the book so great. And with Doctor Sleep, I haven't read the book for Doctor Sleep, but it was great. Like Mike Flanagan is one of the best horror directors working today. Like he's just been killing it. Like with Hush and Gerald's Game. Gerald's Game was fantastic. I recommend you guys check that one out if you haven't. Um, and with this movie, it was just like it was just I thought it was paced really well, especially for a movie that was 2.5 hours. And I just really liked the story, like how it all flowed. Ewan McGregor was really, really good as Danny, and Rebecca Ferguson was also really good as Rose the Hat. And Not to mention, how is Jacob Tremblay this good? I'm even gonna be honest, I didn't even know it was him until I looked it up because I forgot that he was in this movie for a brief moment. But that's the best I can say about this is it's just a very well paced, very well done movie that I just really, really enjoyed. And number 13 is Us. Now, following up to something as masterful as Get Out, it's you can't make something on the same level of Get Out if you make it once. Like it's almost impossible. But did that stop Jordan Peele from making a very good film? No. He definitely is, he's definitely proving himself. Like I really hope that he ends up making more horror films. I think I heard that he's going to be making another one. Um and I think I heard it had like something to do with gender identity. I think. I don't remember, but Us was really really good. Lupita Nyong'o was fantastic here. I was gonna say I don't think she gets nearly enough credit as she deserves. Um, and yeah, this actually was really really creepy. Like I thought this was way scarier than Get Out. Um, and like Get Out, it has a bit of humor in it. The humor worked basically. For the humor basically worked like all throughout it. And I mean, the one scene with like the Alexa thing just had me rolling in the theater. I was laughing so much. But yeah, this was a really good idea with a very good theme behind it, and with Jordan Peele behind the helm, it's gonna be a very well made horror film, and I truly can't wait to see what he does next. Number 12 is The Irishman. Nah, yeah, it's 3.5 hours. Your question probably is, did I think that was a good idea or a bad idea? I thought it was a great idea. I actually loved that this movie was as long as it was, because as I was sitting there, I just felt like I was watching a whole lifetime unfold in front of my eyes, and I didn't want it to end. Like, I wanted to just see more and more and more. Um, and not to mention like Al Pacino and Joe Pesci, oh my god, were great in this movie. I didn't even know that Al Pacino was Jimmy Hoffa until afterwards. Like I didn't even recognize him. And not to mention Joe Pesci's, been great for a long time and he truly shines here. It sucks because both of them were nominated for Golden Globes and possibly both of them will get nominated for Oscars. So this is going to be oh man, it's like choosing a favorite kid. Like you don't want to. It's like I don't know which one I would want to win more, but they gave some of the best supporting performances of the year. Robert De Niro was really good, and overall, this was just a really great movie that was truly one of a kind. And don't let the runtime distract you from it. You'll probably be glad that you watched it. Because as I said, the fact that it was this long just made me feel like I was completely immersed in an entire lifetime. And I was very glad that Martin Scorsese made it this long to show everything that he needed. And not to mention, Martin Scorsese's direction is near perfect here. If he doesn't get nominated for Best Director at the Oscars this year, I am going to riot. Now, number 11 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is the first Quentin Tarantino film I've gotten to see in the theater, and I am so glad to have that opportunity. This was a great movie. It was, it really is a love letter to Hollywood. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio were just great. I especially loved Brad Pitt in this movie. Like, he's definitely coming up to being one of my favorite actors. I really, really liked him in this movie, and you got to leave it to Tarantino to make it to make it so funny because Tarantino has a really good sense of humor. This movie really was hilarious in so many places. The ending, oh my god, the ending is just so perfect. Like, I don't think he could have ended the movie off more perfectly. And there's also so many cool hidden things. Just the acting and direction by everybody was just brought to the best it could have been. And I'm just super, super happy that this film exists. And, seeing this in the theater was a really great experience. And yeah, if you guys haven't seen this, although I don't know why you'd be watching this video if you haven't, but yeah, if for some reason you guys haven't seen this, please go check it out. It is totally worth watching. Number 10 is Zombieland Double Tap. Now, I saw the first one like a few years ago, and that was the only time I saw it. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I didn't think it was like, absolutely amazing, but I thought it was quite good. And as it stands right now, I think I may actually think that the second one is better. I had a lot of fun with this movie. The kills were fantastic. And not to mention, Woody Harrelson is he's just hilarious. Like if you put Woody Harrelson in any comedic role, he's going to deliver. And Zoe Dutch absolutely stole the show. Like I can see why a lot of people would find her annoying. I found her hilarious. Like Zombieland, like it's a really good idea and can be done very well as a horror comedy. And I'm very glad that they decided to make a sequel because they definitely brought some good ideas to the table. I'm glad that it took them a little while to make it because I feel like if they made a second one right away, it wouldn't have been nearly as good or as respected as it is now. And yeah, it's just the definition of a really fun, hilarious zombie comedy that, in my opinion, improves over the first one. Number 9 is a film that not a lot of people liked, actually, and personally, I was very surprised because I loved this movie, and that is the Pet Sematary remake. I don't think it's better than the original, but I thought it was really, really good. Yes, I did think that like when I rewatched it, I thought it was a little rushed. Like I really wish there was a lot more, or maybe it was a lot longer, but I thought this was executed very well because even though I love the original Pet Sematary, I think this is one that deserves a remake. This is definitely one that deserves a remake, and I think it was done very well. John Lithgow was great as Judd. Um, and, some really creepy effects in this, and just, really, really nice makeup, like for the gore. And yeah, like this really was like this really was scary. Like I remember like being in the theater and being like, "Whoa, that's pretty scary." And I also like how they changed certain things from the original so that they didn't like completely make it the same. And yeah, I really was surprised that this wasn't liked by more people. Although I would have liked to have seen what the director of It would have been able to do with this, because he was offered to direct this originally, and he said that he wanted to, but he had prior commitments with It Chapter 2. Yeah, no, I just overall really like this one, and as I said, there were some things that I wish that they did differently, but overall, I thought it was a very effective remake and definitely one of the most underrated that 2019 had to offer. And number 8 is, boy, do I love this movie. And it was the first film that was released in 2019 that I saw in the theater, and that would be Glass. Seeing Split in the theater with Nathan was one of the best movie-going experiences of my life because Split is such a phenomenal movie, and this was such a great chapter to end out the trilogy. It had everything that I wanted out of the end of this series. James McAvoy, it is criminal that he did not get nominated at the Oscars for his performance in Split. I would like to see him get nominated here. He's probably not going to, but like Split like really proved himself to be a fantastic actor, and same with Glass, because you get to see way more of the personalities in this one, and he like switches between them way quicker in this one too. And as with a lot of M. Night Shyamalan films, he knows when to make it funny. With James McAvoy's character, especially if you saw Split, that's kind of a given. Um, as for the ending, I know the ending had a lot of people divided. Well, since I don't want to spoil anything, one part of the ending I really kind of didn't like, but then there was like the very end with what they did there. While it kind of didn't make sense. I thought it was really, really awesome what they did there. Um, and yeah, no, and as I said with Pet Cemetery, this was definitely one of the most underrated that 2019 had to offer. I really loved Glass a lot. Coming in at number 7 is a film I really wish I could have put higher, but oh man, because I loved this movie to death, and that would be Good Boys. I mean, I'm the type of person who finds kids swearing and making dirty jokes hilarious enough. But when you add that with just such a great story, this is kind of like Superbad crossed with Stand By Me. Like, this movie's very, very crude to the core, but it has a lot of heart beneath it. And this movie's actually, like, I've seen it twice now. It's made me feel very emotional because, like, I see, like, this story and these kids, and it takes me back to when I was younger, and I just wish I could, like, relive those days. And I think back to, like, especially the ending to this movie really hits me in the heart because there's a lot of friends that I've had that unfortunately, I'm not friends with them anymore, and that's just the thing when you get older. And this is some of the hardest I have laughed all year. This movie is straight up hilarious. And, I really hope that you guys, if you haven't checked this out, if you're having a shitty day, go and watch this because you will laugh your absolute ass off. This movie is just, it's so good. Like, and even for people who probably don't like dirty humor, you'll find something to enjoy in this movie. Coming in at number 6 is a film I actually just saw recently, I think last week I watched it, and that would be Booksmart. And I unfortunately missed this in theaters because I was a dumbass. But I rented it last week, and you know, I love seeing somebody making a directorial debut and it being so good because Olivia Wilde directs incredibly well here. Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Dever were great. I also loved Skylar Gisando's character in this movie. He was just a beast. And it also kind of made me happy that Stu from Gamer's Guide to Pretty Much Everything is in here. He was pretty funny. And, a lot of people think that, like, a lot of people call this the female Superbad. And yeah, I can see your point there. But the thing is, as I was watching it, I didn't have any connection to Superbad at all. I'm like, it could definitely be called that, but don't remember it as the female Superbad. It is its own thing. It's very, very good. It's incredibly, incredibly funny. It's very real. Like, this is, because this is a coming of age story that really knows exactly where to hit you, like, emotionally and make you cringe. And also, since the characters in this movie graduated high school the same year that I did, it made it all the more real because I just graduated a few months ago. Yeah, this was a great movie that I think I heard it really underperformed at the box office. So, like, I really hope that you guys end up checking this out because I really want more movies like this. This was a awesome movie. And coming in, I really need to get through this quick. The video is almost 20 minutes long. But coming in at number 5 is Knives Out. Now, everybody saw the trailer for this 25 times, no less, probably even more. And, as soon as I saw this, I was like, I was like, well, Brian Johnson he proved himself to me with Star Wars The Last Jedi. I thought Last Jedi was great. And I was like, this movie looks pretty good. But that was it. I just thought, I was like, this looks pretty good, and I'll definitely see it. Knives Out was one of the best surprises of this year. This really is a perfect film. It is such a great whodunit with a great cast, like a lot of really great actors in here. Ana de Armas and Daniel Craig were awesome in this movie. And not to mention, there was a lot of movies in this list that I did not expect to be nearly as funny as they were, but by the end of this movie, the whole theater was just roaring with laughter. Like, this movie really is so hilarious, and it's truly one of a kind in terms of, like, a whodunit story, because it's a whodunit, obviously, but it's truly one of a kind. and I'm so glad that it was able to be made. It's sorry, I have a hard time coming up with words, but and I end up repeating the same things a lot. But as I said, this really just is a very, unique kind of whodunit story. Not your typical whodunit story that you would think. And like Chris Evans, oh my god, he was fantastic in this movie. He stole the damn show. And if you guys can still get to this in theaters, please see it. You won't be disappointed. Coming in at number four is a film I didn't, as with Fighting with My Family, I did not have much of a connection with this one, but man, I was put in such a great mood after I watched this. Coming in at number four is The Dirt. I did not know anything about Motley Crue's story before this. Thing is, I actually went to a Motley Crue concert when I was 8. I don't really remember much from it except for like a couple things, but when I found out that they were making a biopic on them, I was like, oh, that'll be neat to see. And then when I saw that it was on Netflix, I found out that Jeff Tremaine, who directed all the Jackass movies, directed this. And I'm glad he's making a name for himself besides Jackass, because I love the Jackass movies. But I'm glad he actually directed like a real feature film here. Like Bad Grandpa's is a legitimate film, but part of it is hidden camera stuff. But with The Dirt, it's within the first 5 minutes, I was going like this at like what was happening, because this movie is one of the most craziest things I've ever seen. Like, as I said, even from just the first 5 minutes, this film is completely off the walls. And Machine Gun Kelly, great as Tommy Lee. He was, like I knew him as a musician. I didn't really think, like, I was gonna say, because there's some musicians that aren't very good actors, but no, he's a he gives a very, very good performance in here, and everybody else like really just embodied their characters. It was really funny, very serious when it needed to be. From what I know, it's mostly accurate except for like a couple things. But this was another very underrated one from 2019 that I just loved. I was so happy after I watched this. It was like a film that just immediately hit a chord like it was made for me. And coming in at number 3 is Climax. This is one of the most beautiful pieces of filmmaking I've ever seen. This is not the easiest film to watch, and it is not a film for everyone, but the craft here is remarkable. This is a film that just completely assaults your brain and doesn't let go. This film will kick you, punch you, slap you, spit in your face, rub dirt in your eye without a single ounce of forgiveness. There were so many moments throughout this that I was just like completely like kind of felt like I was on drugs partway through, and I mean, I guess that's kind of the point given the story of this. And just so many points I felt like so disturbed and sick to my stomach. There was one part that just made me go like that and like almost like had tears rolling down my eyes. This movie is this movie's very crazy. I mean, it's directed by Gaspar Noé, who I guess you should expect that from somebody like him. And while this may not be for everyone, please give it a watch, because this is one of the most beautiful pieces of filmmaking I have ever seen, and honestly, one of the best horror films of the 2010s. Coming in at number 2 is It Chapter 2. Now, the first It is my favorite film of all time, so obviously I was excited for this, but I was also thinking, how are they gonna do it? Because, the original It was good, but the second part after the dinner scene goes completely downhill. They nailed this. They did this story so right. The cast was just perfect. Like, when I first heard the news that Bill Hader was going to be playing Richie, I was like, doesn't seem right. I was like, he is funny, but like, I just feel like he wouldn't really be able to nail Richie. But oh my God, he performs so well here, and they did stuff with the characters that made them way more fleshed out, gave them so much more depth, and they got the stuff from the well, I haven't read the book in full, but they got a lot of great stuff from the book down pat. They Yeah, and Bill Skarsgård, obviously awesome as Pennywise. And this was one that was pretty divisive. It wasn't really disliked, but it was very divisive amongst people. And there's some people that really hated this one, and I really don't get why. Like, it's better than the original. Come on. You can't look me in the eye and tell me that this is worse than the original. Like, it's no. But yeah, I just love it so much. Like, I'm so glad they decided to remake it because it sure as hell deserved it. And now it's time for my number one pick.
You suck, you jackass.
Brightburn. This was one that wasn't really loved by a lot of people, but this reminded me of everything that I love about film. Like, it takes a story we're all familiar with and puts such an exciting, new, dark spin on it. I mean, it's not the most original idea, but it's a great idea. They mash horror and superhero so well in here. Elizabeth Banks was great as the mother, and the gore and the horror stuff was just so intense and great to see. And it's really a film, when you really look into it, it's very deep. Like, it shows the incredible contrast between a mother's love and a father's love, because all throughout this movie, Elizabeth Banks is refusing to admit that her son is the cause of any of this, and everybody else around her is kind of like, you're a little bit batshit crazy. They're hating this kid, and Elizabeth Banks, being the kid's mother, is like, she's refusing to believe it. And it also helps that I had a really good experience seeing this that added to my enjoyment of it. But this was such an underappreciated film. As I said with a lot of these, I really don't understand why this wasn't more liked by people. But yeah, no, I could go on more, but I probably shouldn't. This video is almost a half an hour long. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more content. Please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed, and remember, you guys, whenever killing people while wearing a mask that looks like a shoe, say no to drugs.